right, welcome everyone. Thanks for being on time to our meeting. Our norms are displayed on our team board over here. So let's quickly review them. We are prepared to meet every Monday at 12:30. Every member's contribution is valuable and valued. Consensus is the will of the group. We are committed to all students learning at high levels, and we plan collaboratively. So before we dig into our data, does anyone have any celebrations?
I'll go. Jake scored above 80% for the first time on a reading test.
Sabrina has completed all of her homework for going on 2 weeks now.
I'm going to echo Diane. The class overall performed really well on the unit test in reading.
You know, I've seen the same thing from Sabrina in social studies. I called to share that with her mother. She really appreciated it.
That's awesome.
I'll go. 75% of our students demonstrated mastery on the first writing prompt.
Same with us.
I want to give kudos to everybody in the group. Your work on the writing prompt, especially aligning the narrative prompt with social studies content, specifically colonization, really reinforced understanding for my class's coursework. So that was huge for us.
Good deal. Okay, the focus of our PLC time today is math, and we'll begin looking at the data from Friday's Common Formative Assessment. John, I think you were the one to do it. Will you begin?
Sure. Let's look at the assessment results. Prior to the meeting, you received the breakdown on how the students scored on each question. What are your thoughts on these?
I actually have concerns about number 4. I'm not sure if this question accurately assesses the I can statement that we were addressing in the standard.
I agree.
To clarify, when I looked at the IDOE's framework, the I can statement reads, I can use fraction benchmarks to help me mentally estimate sums and differences and to assess whether my answers are reasonable.
Does anyone have the actual assessment question handy they could read, please?
Here's how number 4 reads. A package contains 4 cups of oatmeal. There's 1/3 cup of oatmeal in each serving. How many servings of oatmeal are there in the package? Explain. Draw a picture to illustrate your solution.
Yeah, it's asking students to multiply or divide, whereas the standard only asks for students to use fraction benchmarks to estimate sums and differences.
Yeah, all of my kids missed that one.
Mine too, but now I understand why, because we didn't teach multiplication and division with fractions because that wasn't what the standard was addressing.
So that's not a valid question because it's not an expectation of the standard.
Okay, hey Rose, would you note that we need to revise that for next year? Put that in the notes.
Got it.
Okay, how about the overall class scores? Melissa?
85% of my students demonstrated mastery.
Wow. Emily?
I had 80%.
Okay, Diane?
80% as well.
Rose?
75%.
Hey, Robin?
85%.
Wow. Terrell?
80%.
Matt?
So I broke the mastery trend, so I'm at 75%.
And I bottomed out at 70%.
Okay, so Melissa and Robin, since your classes did so well, maybe you could explain for us how you guys taught the benchmark fractions. I tried, obviously, but I didn't succeed. But my students still aren't using those to estimate.
My kids struggle with that too.
I did a regular fluency warm-up with my students, so I used a sentence strip to write each fraction and then labeled them. This way my students could easily see whether the fraction was closer to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole.
So I broke students into groups because they still struggle with it even though it's explained in 4th grade. Then with partners, they analyze expressions without paper and pencil. They use the strategies we previously learned about adding and subtracting unlike fractions to reason through the expressions. Then sometimes I would scaffold by asking students to draw a number line on a whiteboard. This way they could estimate 1 fraction at a time and then the final answer. Then in another group, they used fraction bars to compare when they were given a written problem.
That's really good, but we're out of time for this part of the agenda, guys.
Okay, thanks Terrell for keeping us on time. So, good ideas. Now let's keep in mind our PLC essential questions. We know how our students performed in regards to mastery of the standard, but what will we do for those who didn't do as well and those who performed well?
So during the intervention period, I really think that Melissa and Robin should teach those students who didn't understand the concept because their classes did really well. Terrell and Rose and I could take extra students if needed for intervention because our classes did fairly well as well.
Okay, so how many is that?
I'll say about 30.
Okay. All right, thanks. So, based on the numbers, let's have Melissa, Robin, Terrell, and Rose. Let's have you guys lead the intervention. This will be great because it looks like it's probably about 7 or 8 students per group.
You guys want to meet later to plan for that?
Sure.
Okay.
So send me the names of your students so I can record them for everybody. And then for the rest of our students, we'll divide them up for reinforcement and enrichment. Does that sound okay?
That's great.
So then what do we want to do for those who need enrichment? Anybody have any suggestions?
So in the looking ahead section of the math framework, it would make sense to start building knowledge with the solving real world problems with positive fractions and decimals by using 1 or 2 operations.
Let's break down the standards so we're clear about what the students need to understand and are able to do.
So for this standard, I think we should focus on the one I can statement that says I can compute with positive fractions fluently using a standard algorithm.
All right, so thanks for that. Great discussion today so far. I think we still have a little bit of time left to discuss what we want to assess in reading for this coming week. And I will also be looking forward to see how the math interventions worked out for the scholars.